Hello everyone once again and welcome back to PAX and Recreation, and today we're going battle decks, baby, with two simple battle decks. So battle deck Lucario EX and battle deck Ampharos EX or Ampharos, I don't know. Each one pronounces Pokemon names as they see fit. I don't know. So these two came at the same came out at the same time, and they are not made to battle each other, but certainly we use them as such. So we use them to battle each other because it's kind of the fun way of doing it. And also, you can see that, well, one is for fighting type or fist type, and the other is for electric type. Here's the deck list. Now, just to be clear, when you buy a deck like this one, the deck list is here, which is actually great because some don't include the deck list, some other card games. What you're getting is always the same, right? So no randomizing, no lucky draws, no anything. You are always getting the same. There is a clear use for this product, and it is to actually start playing. So if you're new to Pokemon, or you just are curious about Pokemon, is this a good deck to start and play with? Well, let's see. As you can see, both are play level 1. So that means that they are simple to start and simple to understand for anyone that, you know, kind of has a good enough understanding of card games. Also, you have an explanation here which you can scan for play levels. Let's start with Ampharos, or Ampharos, as I believe that Lucario is more of a fan favorite. Now, what's the best way of opening these boxes? That's a great question. I never know. Some people hate that they open like this because they want to reuse the boxes, in which case you can try, be my guest. But Pokemon decks are fairly complete, I may say, in the sense that you get your Ampharos promo card, in this case with this great starburst or little stars or whatever is the official designation for like foil treatment, which is great. Now it comes in the front for reasons because it's not in display here, so it kind of could be just wrapped with the rest of the deck to avoid it bending over, but whatever. Here's a code for the same deck to use it online, so if you want to learn how to play, this is actually a great way of doing it. Please be free to use the code if you want to. And a deck box with a deck, which is always great. A mini guide. And some life counters or impact counters, depending. Apparently one of them already jumped out. I don't know where it is, but as you can see, one of them already decided to jump out. And a couple of inserts, and as you know, we love inserts, so let's remove the last thing here, which is the coin. This is very well packed compared to other card games. So you get a coin, a EX coin, nothing fancy, but you know, Pokemon has a lot of effects for coin toss. So here you have your first coin, if that's the case. It's a plastic coin, so nothing too fancy, but you know, the idea is just to throw it and see, like, you know, if you get one side or the other, is not to kill someone, so plastic coin is okay. Let's put this thing here. Now for the life counters, or the impact counters, or damage counters, I guess is the official title. We're missing one, which I'm kind of checking everything to see if I missed it somehow, but apparently no, and it's not inside the box. It's not very important, as like you don't need this is just helpful, but I am missing a counter. I want my counter. So what's in here? In here you have a couple of, a three, actually more than a couple, a trio of guide cards. In this case, they're not even as the same stock as the cards, or they're kind of soft, to be honest, but it's just explanations in case you are new to Pokemon, so you can see that the goal for this deck is for newcomers. What you can do during your turn in order, which is also always very useful if you don't want to play online. I insist that playing online is kind of a fast way of learning. They have a tutorial, so what are the special conditions and how do you remove the counters? This is actually very good for beginners. Special conditions, sleep and paralyze, and how they work, using Lechonk as an example. Special conditions, burn, and you have to put a burn marker on them, which this doesn't come with one, funny enough. And confused, as you can see, had me confused as well. If your Pokemon is confused, you have to turn it upside down, and if it's poisoned, you have to put a poison counter on it. And these are the 3 card guides, right? So besides this, you have the damage counters. You're supposed to just pop them out as such, and then you will use it to mark damage. If you are that kind of person like me, if you want to, I don't know, put it again in the same place, you can, but that's not what it's intended for. Here's the Ampharos card, and we get a insert for the Ampharos EX battle deck, saying, welcome to Pokemon TCG, and good team for lightning type Pokemon in this deck. Then you can do a lot of damage, and you have to often discard energy, full power. Stage 2 Pokemon EX are incredibly powerful, blah, blah, blah. And it gives you some strategies here. Discard for damage, choose carefully. Many lightning type Pokemons are weak to fighting types. And ironically, that's the other deck, right? So, and retrieve your power. On the other side, you have Lucario, and Lucario, so you know that they come in pairs. It has, we will read the same later, so we can read it right away. It says that, well, Lucario EX is to hit opponents hard and knock them out. You don't have energy discard, but it's about hitting them, you know, great damage in a single attack. You have a lot of draw cards, cards that let you draw cards, and they evolve fast, right? So technically, they have a type advantage over the electric ones. So these decks are balanced in that way, but you will see in a second what I mean. Then it comes with a manual for quick start rules that actually, you know, describe the areas and your playmat, your opponent's playmat. It's actually kind of very to the point. Like, this is how you play Pokemon, this is how you do it, and you have to draw a card, and you have to do this, you have to do that. You have to play a basic Pokemon. Basic Pokemon says, once say basic, you can use one attack or the other because of the energy cost. This is actually a very good guide. And again, if for some reason you don't have a phone or a tablet or something, or even a PC, and you can't play the online game, which is free, by the way, this is actually a very good guide, I have to say. And you have some concepts here like Mulligan, first player to go, trainer tips, again, the statuses, and, you know, overall, very good, kind of solid. So, better than other card games. And then you have, likely the most important thing for a newcomer, which is not a poster of EX Battle Deck, but actually your playmat. And if you have two of these, as you can imagine, because in our case we bought the two of them, you actually have a nice drawing thing that they match to each other. Now, this is paper, this is nothing fancy, but again, this is for a beginner, so I guess it matches. As you can see, you have the spot for the prize cards here. You have a quick guide always there in the playmat to tell you like what you can do during your turn, your active spot indicating you what are the key things on your Pokemon, and then the bench, deck spot for your deck, and the discard pile. This is actually very good, and you see when you put the card here, it will tell you like hit points are these, attack damage, attack cost, etc. So not bad for something that is essentially for newcomers. So very good. And if you are, you know, an old dog that really knows how to play Pokemon, it's just like, oh, okay, whatever, and you can just throw it away. After all, you are here because of your lead Pokemon and the deck. Now, the box is nothing to write home about, as you can see, and to my dismay, the cards do not come wrapped. They are just there inside the box, as is. Like, I will hope at least a plastic wrap, but whatever. I assume they already used too much plastic here, which is actually kind of very solid for what it is. So, Now, what can you find here? Exactly what is in the deck list. So you can just run the deck list if you want, or we can go quickly over the deck. So this Ampharos deck is, as the mini guide said, is all about going fast, drawing cards, and doing damage. And then a lot of the attacks here that do big damage, they require you to discard energy. So this deck is all about that: discarding energy, going big, and trying to not go home, right? You do have a resistance minus 30 for electrical attacks, which is in this one, which is actually good for the other deck, but for most Pokemon you have weakness ×2 to fighting type Pokemon, right? So this is where the thing gets complicated. However, the deck is kind of balanced in that regard, because you have some cards like Rotom, which, by the way, you can see that the deck is not in it's not in a default order. So some people defend, and we can even go here, because this is not like baby's first Pokemon deck, so there is no point in being like that. So it says you and your opponent will face out in a Pokemon battle. Here is how it works, etc. But it says step 2, each player shuffles their deck. Ironically, this thing is kind of somewhat shuffled. So see, like, it doesn't come in the normal format as a deck will come, which is with, you know, all the energies together, all the Pokemon that are the same together, etc. It's kind of shuffled, which is weird. So see, what saves this deck against the other is that you have a bunch of birds, like Staravia and so on. And those birds are the ones that are going to, well, save you here in most of the battle, because they have the big resistance. So you're either weak or resistant to them. There is no middle point. In some cases, you have electric birds, or you have Staraptor here, right? So Starly, Staraptor, and Staravia are going to be some of your best choices here to go against that. And as you may have seen, and you may be scratching your head, you have all these Pokemon here. It is a very consistent, solid little deck. And yet Ampharos is your main Pokemon, which is, you know, being an EX means that you have to evolve from Marip and from Fluffy, right? So Fluffy is here and Marip is here. So Marip, Fluffy, and then Ampharos. So it's like your trump card. It's like you can only have one. But at the same time, you have a Miraidon here, and you can already guess which other Pokemon is going to appear in the other deck. Now, this is the normal Miraidon. It's not like the crazy Miraidon, but it's interesting that they choose to go with, you know, Ampharos and Lucario instead of like Miraidon versus Koraidon. But I digress. So overall, the theme of this deck is all about electricity, and just big attacks, discarding energy, and trying to fight another day. Now, and for some reason, mine is missing a damage counter. I hope that's not your case. Now, when we compare it to the Lucario one, and this thing is going to be easy, because the packaging and the box is pretty much the same. Now, one thing has to be said here in this review, and it's that these, I think I already said at the beginning, but these are decks, again, for beginners. It says play level 1 on the box, right? So if you're an established Pokemon player, unless you really like the theme, or you really like Lucario or Ampharos or whatever, this is not for you, my friend. Like, this is not an advanced deck. You should go with a Pokemon League deck, like the Mew one, for example, if you want to hone your skills or have a deck that you can compete with. For example, one of these two, right? And we're going to review this in another day, but you can tell that, for example, this is a league battle deck, and this is a level 2 for Inteleon, and this is a league battle as well, and this is a level 3 for Mew, right? So these are more meta-friendly, these are more you know, this is a deck that you can try and take to your local game store or like to a friend that already has a Pokemon collection, and you'll actually battle at a decent level with. These ones are, you know, starter decks, to call them somehow, and you know, with very cool cards. Right here, Lucario EX, and you know, with some codes for you to be able to do the same. Now, very cool detail in case you missed that, that's going to happen in a second. As a curiosity, this one only comes with one damage counter sheet. So I guess that what actually happens is that I'm not missing one, I have an extra sheet. That's more what happens actually. So damage counter sheet as well. The same special condition cards as in the other. The same reference guide for both decks, right? So these decks are brother and sister. They are made to battle each other, even though it's not explicitly stated anywhere, but you can see here that it's like electric and ground or fighting, and they are one going against the other. The text, the book is pretty much the same, right? No changes here, same book, same great instruction manual, I have to say. So, and the playmat is actually slightly different, because instead of focusing on electricity, since this is the back, as you can imagine, this is the front, and it has the ground effect. Because let's remember that fist in Pokemon trading card game means both fist, so fighting type, rock type, and ground type. So anyone's game. And there you go. So same logic, same stuff. And then for the deck, the cards are also just rumbling here. In terms of, by the way, just very quickly, main Pokemon, I know what you may be thinking, and you may be thinking, well, one is clearly better than the other. Ampharos is 330 versus 260, and Electro Ball. However, if you compare Electro Ball and Thunderstrike Tail to Low Sweep and Aura Sphere, the attacks are pretty much the same, and Thunderstrike is also, like, if you discard energy, then yes, it goes 240, but in the battle between these two, Ampharos has more life, but Ampharos is also weaker, is weak against Lucario, right? So in these two, it is what it is. Also, you can put them one next to the other, and it does this cool like battle thing. It's also kind of cool. So there is that. But for the deck itself, the focus here, as you saw, so a lot of support cards are the same. You have smaller creatures or smaller Pokemon here. Riolu, taking Riolu to Lucario is a lot faster than taking Marip to Ampharos. You have a lot of normal cards here, like Lechonk, and ironically, you don't have that many back and forth, but you do have some advantages if you play the electric deck here. For example, Squawkabilly is weak against electricity, and you see Koraidon is here, so Miraidon versus Koraidon, even though these are the soft versions of them, not the cool crazy versions, but nonetheless, a lot of weakness here are for the Psychic type, or Ghost type, or Eye type, because it's purple and means all that, right? And poison sometimes as well. So the support cards are the same. You have Cyclizer also here. So the deck is pretty much the same in that regard, but you have a couple of normal monsters to balance the deck. Some small fighting types, and then Squawkabilly is kind of the only card that will be in a considerable disadvantage. Annihilate is here, which is great because Primeape is like one of the best Pokemon ever, right? So, but overall, you can see what's going to happen, right? Like, these decks are made to fight each other, and they are balanced in the sense that not all the Pokemon here are weak to fighting type or to fist type or whatever, or brown type because ground and all that. And not all Pokemon here are immune or have advantage over the electric type. So that's why you have some normal types in here that are even weak to electricity or are just chilling, like is the case of my Oinkolon friend over here and Lechonk as well. So it's not like you're going to have an advantage all the time if you play the fighting deck over the electric deck. I do think that the fighting deck is a little bit more straightforward in the sense that it's just ping boom, like you put energy, you fight, put energy, you fight, put energy, you fight, and the crazy moves only come with Pokemon like Squawkabilly, which makes sense because it's a Pokemon where you're taking a risk to take electric damage with it, or just some evolutions like Medicham, or even Lucario, right? Ironically, the cool Pokemon Koraidon and Miraidon are just there, right? This is just a chunky boy here. It's a basic Pokemon. It doesn't evolve from Cyclizar, so Cyclizar is also here just like to fill the spot a little bit. And in here you have less normal creatures. The ones that you have that are normal, like Starly, they actually are resistant against the type that is the other deck, right? And Miraidon has more craziness to its attacks than Koraidon, but at the same time, nothing to write home about, right? So the normal Pokemon that you have here actually have advantage over the other deck, whilst the normal Pokemon in the fighting deck actually are weak against the electric deck. So it's balanced, right? That's what I'm trying to say. It's balanced, and I think it's a very cool deck. Now, these boxes are for what it is, right? Like, we're not going to go crazy over here, and they fit the cards as they are. If you sleeve them, they are kind of going to fit, because look at this. Like it's cool that the box has this opening so that you can actually pick the cards, right? Like the thing goes further back. It's not breaking, not like breaking the box. It actually goes further back, so you can actually grab the thing. You have some space here, so you can actually sleeve them, and you have space to the sides. So single sleeve, likely. Double sleeve, not so likely. And if you want to use these boxes, because at the end of the day, after you play with them, you're going to store them somewhere, and this is kind of a decent spot to store them, and everything else, so all this stuff is just going somewhere, right? Like, this is a starter deck. I think it's kind of cool. So, verdict. Is it worth it? Well, if you have, I don't know, a friend or a brother or sister or whatever, or you're a parent and you're like, oh, well, it may be a good way to, like, a board game for the kids or something. Well, this is actually a good thing. Just buy the two decks, and they all come with pretty much the same, but different size of the coin, and 2 coins as well. And with their play messenger, because they can just start playing. If you're an old parent from the card generation and you want to introduce your kids to cards, it's actually kind of 2 good decks to do that. Or if you have like your loved one, like your boyfriend, girlfriend, or wife, or husband, or whatever, and you're like, oh, let's buy something to play, because you have your competitive decks, and the person that lives with you doesn't necessarily play competitive. This is actually a good thing. You buy the 2 of them. You can find them, if you find them fairly cheap, like 12 bucks more or less, 15 if you really push me. That's ideal, but like 12, 10 bucks, that will be the sweet spot. And because it's not competitive, and the cards here are not valuable or anything, so you're not going to get rich, or you're not going to compete against the world here. This is just to start and to learn and to get into Pokemon. So this is kind of cool for that. So you buy the 2. If you buy just 1 to play with your friends, it's cool. But if your friends already have like cool decks or more advanced decks like this, then you are likely not going to have a fun time. But if it is to play with a friend or brother, sister, husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, buy the 2. They fight each other perfectly, and it's kind of entertaining. And then, for example, play 1 game, then shuffle and exchange decks, and then fight again and again and again, and see if you're actually enjoying the thing. If you're enjoying it, then I believe this is a great introductory step to Pokemon. If you're not enjoying it, then my friend, at least you saved some money. You didn't need to buy like boosters or anything, but it is what it is. So again, final conclusions. Good for beginners. It is in the box, so if you didn't saw that, so, oops. Well, good to fight against each other, but if it's for you alone, you're not going to be competitive with them, so don't go crazy for it. Overall impression, cool, in isolation, and always remember, you're not going to be a Pokemon master with them. This is just to start your journey. As a product, I think it's very complete, full of stuff, sometimes too much stuff, because I think this isn't supposed to come with 2. But, you know, it comes with a playmat, comes with a very good book explaining the basics of Pokemon, and some guide cards, so plus a coin. So, you know, you can't ask more than that for like 12, 15 bucks. I think it's pretty good, pretty well balanced. So, thank you very much for your time. I hope you had a great time, and I also hope to see you next time on PAX and Recreation. Bye!